Welcome to P3 Radio.
The monkey only dances as good as the guy grinding the organ handle.
Demolition! We're coming for you, baby!
And if you're going to call me back tomorrow, whatever,
You better believe I took my turn a little bit.
What?
Cool story, bro.
PG3 Radio.
Nope. Here's your host, Josh Friday.
Ladies and gentlemen, next up we have Crying Little Blind Children.
Richard Mullican.
I don't know. Is this making any sense to anybody out there?
It's showtime! It's showtime! It's showtime!
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of P3 Radio. I'm Richard Mullican, joined by my co-host and best friend, Josh Briley. Say hey, Josh.
How's it going, everybody? Today we have the first Olympic edition of P3 Radio.
Not only that, the first female guest for our podcast.
Two-time Olympic Gold Medalist Summer Sanders.
Yeah, somebody with her credentials should not have been as nice, down to earth, and just as awesome as she was to an upstart podcast like us. We really appreciate her time and her being on our show.
And we will have that interview and more after a word from
Wine of the Month Club. When you go shopping for wine, do you look at the labels? Do you stare at the price and wonder if the wine is worth the expensive tag? Well, stop it, because Wine of the Month Club has you covered. Every month, Wine of the Month Club is going to send you 2 bottles of high-quality wine right to your front door.
And what better way to say I'm thinking of you than a subscription to the original Wine of the Month Club for a friend or a sweetheart. Each month they'll be reminded of your thoughtfulness and will receive the monthly wine letter and newsletter binder. Recipes, wine knowledge, and great wine, and the opportunity to get more of their favorites is at hand. Give with confidence and joy, knowing that you're a part of the original Wine of the Month Club.
By the way, there are no dues, no fees, no hidden charges. Cancel anytime with no obligation. Just pay no more than $23.96 plus shipping for 2 great bottles of wine. Go there now. Sign up by visiting our link, tinyurl.com/P3wine. That's tinyurl.com/P3wine. The Wine of the Month Club, the original wine club since 1972. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now on the P3 Hotline. You've seen her as an athlete, as a sports analyst, a commentator, a game show host, a 2-time gold medalist. We are honored to have the multi-talented Summer Sanders right here. Summer, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it is my pleasure. You forgot to add the victim of slime, which is a big part of my life. You know, being slimed is... I don't know. I put it at like number 2 on my resume.
We're going to ask you about that here in a little bit. Don't worry. We've got that covered.
I figured.
But, you know, I was watching a YouTube video in preparation for this. You know, I always try to find questions that you probably haven't been asked before, which is impossible. But I stumbled across this YouTube video of these guys that were following you around asking you questions TMZ style. And all I could think of was, guys, just leave her alone. She's trying to get to where she's going. And then I thought, oh, God, I've been doing this to her on Twitter for like the past 2 months.
You know what's funny about that? So that instance was like kind of a one-time deal. I mean, if you think back to my career, the oddest part of being that moment in the Olympic Games is that you come home and and people know your name. And so I remember walking on the streets it was in D.C. for some reason, and somebody hollered my name, and I figured, oh, I must know them. But how weird, because it's 1992. No one has cell phones. Internet's not invented. And here's this person hollering my name in D.C. I don't know anybody in D.C. So that was an odd moment. But you fast forward to now and how everybody can kind of get in your space, which is totally fine. But that TMZ moment never had happened to me before. And the ironic part of it was I was going to L.A. to do a prank show. It's called Chris Webber's, I forget the name of the show, but it was Chris Webber, basketball player. Yeah. And it was a prank show. So I was pranking someone. And I got off that plane and I thought, oh my God, they're pranking me. So the whole time I'm like, am I in the Twilight Zone? What is happening right now? Yeah, but you are not. I think it's a cool part of social media. And I felt like we were going to have like a good conversation. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. It does connect people in a very cool way.
Well, we appreciate it. And like I said, it really speaks to how nice of a person you are that you let me bug you on a month for Twitter to try to get you on this little unknown podcast that hopefully one day will be something and we can go, Summer Sanders helped us out so much in the beginning.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I hope so.
Looking back, what would you say are some of the things that you can pinpoint that molded you into such a successful athlete?
You know, it's funny. I was a couple minutes late calling you guys because I was on the phone with my mom. And we were having a conversation about me when I was around 8, 9, 10 years old, because my son is swimming and he's 10. And the other day, Monday to be specific, he didn't want to go to swim practice. And I said, well, buddy, you should probably go because you have state championships on Thursday and you're also skiing. So you're going to be skiing on Wednesday. So you really only have a couple chances for swim practice before state championships.
Right.
But it was very important to my son at that moment to have a play date with a friend because he hadn't played with his friends in a while, and that trumped swim practice. So I stepped back and said, okay, I wanted to lay the cards out there and let you know what your week looks like. So if that's what you want to do, I can't make you. I can't force you. And so my mom and I just had this conversation, and she said, well, remember, you quit swimming when you were 10.
Wow.
And but then she also reminded me when I decided to go to practice, I went every single day. There was just no question. So I think it stems from like this. My parents were really awesome. They're still really awesome. My dad didn't know anything about swimming. He just knew it took a ton of time, which he didn't like. And my mom really recognized my talent, but stood back and cleverly let me make my own decisions daily. So if I decided not to go to practice, then that was on me. And she would ask me all these really clever questions when I didn't want to go, but it really instilled in me this sense of responsibility with my own journey. And I think that was really important. And that's a huge part of why I was so connected to the process of being great. I was an active member of that.
You mentioned your dad, not liking the time. As a father of a dance child, I'm a dance dad. I have a 5-year-old that's in ballet and tap. And every year it seems like the training, the classes get like 5 to 10 to 15 minutes longer. And you're like, please, just stick with dancing. Don't choose softball or something else. I mean, it's cool if you do, but, it's like Daddy only has a little bit of time in the day. So I can feel for him there. But she started at 5 dancing, and you mentioned quitting swimming at 10. What age did you really start trying and training to be an Olympic athlete?
Oh, you know what? That is a question that I get a lot, and it becomes more interesting even now because I have kids that are 11 and 10. So I probably recognized that I had natural talent probably around 11 years old. I was qualifying for pretty big meets at that time. I had a bit of confidence. I saw the results of going to practice and working hard and then going to a swim meet and swimming fast. That was just a direct result, one of the other. When I probably learned that I could be great and make the Olympics and win a gold medal was when I just missed the Olympic team when I was 15. And it was an accident that I even made it into finals. So that whole process was like, that wasn't even supposed to happen. And it was probably the greatest gift, and I do hope maybe people listening recognize that some of your biggest failures, quote unquote, right, in your mind are oftentimes your greatest gifts, and a gift in terms of learning and becoming better. And they happen for a reason often. So that was one of my greatest gifts, was just missing the Olympic team. I feel like if I had made it, I wouldn't really know what my goal was there, and I wouldn't have had the fire to come back for 4 more years and work every single day so hard with my eyes set on not just making the team, but winning a gold medal. And missing it is exactly what that produced, was that fire. So that's probably when I knew I could make it and I knew I could win, was when I was 15, if I worked hard.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Michael Jordan getting cut from his high school basketball thing. It's also like every coach you ever have in football growing up where they go, All right, so we don't want to peak too early. We don't want to win too many games in a row and get your confidence here to where you think you can't be beat. We want you to lose one early if you have to. Get it out of the way and let's just move on. You want that failure in life. Now, speaking of football, to segue into this, we kind of had a little Twitter conversation about the Super Bowl. And I think we were both pulling for the same team, maybe because your divisional rival was the opponent of the
Maybe. You think so? Yeah.
So, you know, in a lot of these Super Bowl winning interviews with the coaches, they'll have with a coach on stage and they'll say, "Hey, what do you want to do? What are you going to do now that you've won?" And they go, "We got to start focusing on next year." You know, it's very, straightforward, eagle vision, looking towards the next year. When you win that Olympic gold medal and you're standing there on top of the world, do you take a second to go, "Wow, I did it," or do you just start the competitor and you just start looking forward to the next challenge?
No, I was 19 when I was standing on top of that podium. So 4 years after missing it as a 15-year-old, I then am standing on top of the podium with a 19-year-old brain. It's very difficult to be that young and comprehend what's happening, right? I mean, if I look at myself, I run marathons now, and I cry at the start of my marathon, and I cry when I'm like a half a mile to the finish all the way through, because I recognize every single hour of training is like time away from my kids. My family is a part of my journey. When you're that young, you cross the finish line and you think, okay, what's next? That was awesome. What's next? But I think, so my moment when I was 19 was a lot of pressure. I won my individual gold medal at my very last race, which was on the last day of swimming competition after a very long week of emotion, nervousness, excitement, all this. So when I touched the wall and I saw that I had a 1 next to my name, my first emotion was relief. And then my 19-year-old brain said, "Oh, remember you gave up sweets for the entire 3 weeks leading up to these Olympic Games, so now you finally get to eat sugar." So, and my friends had chocolate in the stands, so I'm not kidding you. My gold medal moment was amazing, and I was watching my flag being raised, and my hand was over my heart, and I didn't have the guts to belt out the anthem, but I was emotionally singing along with every verse. But then when I got off the podium, I knew my friends were going to throw me chocolate, and they did. And so it's kind of cool because I was so young that it kept it very real. You know, the moment was amazing, but my friends and that connection kept it very grounded. It was about food for me. I went straight to Dick Ebersol's office because I had to do an interview. I got to do an interview with Bob Costas, and all I wanted was a giant cheeseburger. So it was cheeseburger, fries, chocolate, and I literally didn't starve myself before the Olympics. But I soaked it up, and I enjoyed every moment. And then when I came back from the Olympic Games, that's when I considered, okay, what am I going to do with swimming after this?
Right.
So I waited for a second. And you know what, you guys, I think they do. They appreciate it. They enjoy it. I think it's a bit of it's a safety net, so to speak, for these coaches and athletes to just focus on next year. But I do think people are becoming more real with their conversation. I think social media has helped that way, where they authentically tell you, I'm going to enjoy this moment. I'm going to soak this up. I'm going to soak it up with this person right here, this person,
Right.
I think they're becoming more open with that.
Well, you kind of touched on it a little bit there with the national anthem. I don't know what it is. You go to a sporting event and you have the right person singing the national anthem, and you have, say, a football game and those jets come flying over you.
Oh.
Is there a song that can drag so much emotion out of you? Am I the only one that kind of tears up a little bit at the national anthem?
Maybe you and I are the only ones, but I and my husband too. We'll look at each other on July 4th, and when those jets fly over, I mean, I have tears rolling down my face. Like I'm biting my lip and my chin is quivering. It's like full, dramatic cry moment. I had an Olympian, I was talking to this person, I can't remember who it was, but they described it best in winning a gold medal and standing on that podium. You really never, ever hear the national anthem the same way again. Right. And it's in a great way. I mean, I ran Boston Marathon in 2013. Every time those moments happened where an entire stadium full of people sang the national anthem, and it brought people together, I was bawling.
Yeah.
It has a lot of meaning to me, that moment. So yeah, you're not alone. I'm right there with you.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Well, coming back from the Olympics, you were on posters everywhere. Growing up, who were on the posters hanging in your room?
Okay, so a few people know this about me. I've said it a couple times, but I was obsessed with Michael Jordan.
Right.
So when I say obsessed, I traveled with these posters to my swim meets, and I would put these posters up on the wall with toothpaste because toothpaste does not affect the paint or the wallpaper.
Oh, I never thought
I
of
would.
that.
There you go. That's a little nugget of knowledge that you can take away from this podcast. I would write number 23 on my swim cap. I would parade out for every race in my Air Jordans. So I loved Michael Jordan. I loved his play. I loved how talented he was. And I know I'm not alone. This generation
Right.
of mine, right? We would watch him and we could feel like we could go and do anything. So that was that time period. When I was younger, and I went to the LA Olympics as a spectator, of course. Mary Lou Retton. I could barely point my toes, but Mary Lou Retton, I thought, I'm going to put my swimsuit on and run down the hallway of my house and do a round off, and I'm going to be Mary Lou Retton. So, and my brother and I would play Eric Heiden. We put socks on our wood floor, and we pretend like we were speed skaters, and we'd play Eric Heiden. So, I had a lot of heroes growing up. Most all of them, when I was really young, they were Olympians. But that teenage to into college year was Michael Jordan.
Yeah, we don't do political questions here. I guess this is going to be the closest thing that we would have. So a couple of years ago, I had heard about this procedure that you guys have when you win an Olympic gold medal or a silver or bronze. When you come back to the U.S., you're hit with a tax. Now, depending on what you look up on Google, there's a bunch of different figures there. I won't get into specifics on how much per medal, but I thought that was crazy that they tax you guys on winning medals for representing our country, really. You're representing us, and then they charge you for it. What do you think about that tax procedure on the medals?
So you have to understand, this is new. And I think it's really cool that we're having this conversation because then the general public will understand how really not that long ago, I know you could be professional and be in the Olympic Games, but the Olympic Games was not about money. So in 1992, I brought home 2 gold medals, a silver, and a bronze. And the USOC, not my national governing body of USA Swimming, but the USOC sent me a check for $1,250, wow. And that was it. So I don't believe I was taxed on that, and I could have been. I really don't know. So I was 19, and my dad was helping with my taxes and all that stuff.
Right.
But yeah, at that time, it really wasn't about money. Of course, I was 19, and I'm like, sweet, I have $1,250.
Right.
But that was for anyone who was in the finals. If you were first, so gold medal to 8th place in any race, you got one check for $1,250. So if you did it 4 times, you still just got $1,250. You fast forward 4 years, and then athletes started getting paid. So I believe they got paid $50,000 for gold, and then on down to
wow.
Silver and bronze from the USOC, and a similar amount from their national governing body. So that would be USA Swimming. I felt like it was great. I do feel like it's really only the top tier of Olympians that can bring home an income to support themselves, and many are now supporting a family. They're trying to be the best in the world, and they're trying to earn enough money to support a family. Many of these amazing Winter Olympians came straight home and went back to their day job. I can't tell you, we did a house here in Park City, and we had a gold medalist who was doing our cabinets. We had a silver medalist who was redoing our floors. We were hiring these, handy, skilled workers, and they are Olympic medalists.
Wow.
And that's what they do, to earn enough money to do what they love to do to represent our country. And that still is what we love, about the Olympic Games, that there is a part of it that is hard and pure, but you're right. We have to figure this out a little bit better because they shouldn't be suffering.
No.
And if we are going to give them money, do we tax them? That becomes really complicated. I personally don't think so, but I don't know enough about our taxation situation or about the payment situation right now. So I do find it interesting, and I'm glad that athletes are being paid for their medals.
In the patriot in me, the USA patriot, red, white, and blue blood, if you're wearing an American flag and you're representing us in anything, you should get a break. There should be certain things that they just let you have. You won a gold medal, come back over here, be a hero. You fought in a war, come back over here, you're never going to be homeless. But like I said, we don't do political questions, so we'll get off of that right now.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the deal. I'm not alone with you. But Olympians, and I think service, I don't know, for people who serve our country. My dad got into the military because that's what he did. It was sort of a decision. It was a way to get to college. It was a way to get an education. But that's what that generation did. I swam because I loved it. I didn't swim for money. And it became very complicated when money became a part of my swimming career. So I'm right there with you. But I do feel like at least this, I'll tell you this story. Okay. I was trying to order the hat, the gloves, and the scarf for Team USA because I was going to an actual Team USA event in Park City right before opening ceremony. And I went on the USA website, the Team USA website, and I put it all in. And the person who had asked me to go to the event, I texted him and I said, hey, do you guys have a promo code or like a coupon for Olympians when we order Team USA stuff? And so he said, let me check. And then he texted me back and he said, we've been working on that and we just don't have that yet. So we can't even just catch a break in ordering Team USA stuff. But I can't be upset about it. I just love representing our country so much. And I love the red, white, and blue. And I look at my gold medals and I'm so honored to be a part of that family.
Well, since you're such a high-level swimmer, did it ever cross your mind to become like a Navy SEAL?
Oh, my gosh. Are you kidding? That is actually, okay. So I do feel like that I'm very tough. And in the moment and under pressure, I do feel like I calm a little bit. But I am such a wimp. I am such a wimp, especially when it comes to the ocean.
Right.
So, and that is so funny because there are quite a few people who grew up as swimmers that will go into the Navy SEALs, but it's a special, rare, amazing quality to make it through Navy SEAL training, not only survive the training, but then thrive as a Navy SEAL. Right. So my hat goes off to them. No chance. I'll leave that to the professionals.
I was talking to my wife a couple years back, and I said, I think not knowing how to swim is the closest thing that you can have an intervention for a skill. Because I can't swim, and usually when you tell somebody that, the first thought is, that's crazy, and then I'm going to teach you. It's never like, you should really learn how and find classes on your own. It's like, no, we're going to go out one day. I'm just going to throw you in the river and you'll be fine. You'll swim. Trust me.
Can I interrupt you really
quickly? Go ahead.
What do you mean by you can't swim?
We grew up in a very landlocked type area. There was the river that was like an hour away in Memphis. But other than that, having an overprotective mother, I was this only child raised by a single mother. She was very cautious about what I did, and she was scared to death of water. So I never really went swimming. I guess the other thing I could point out is I was always the chubby kid, so I never wanted to take my shirt off and do all that, so I just avoided pools.
Well, but I mean, if you went in the water right now, would you sink to the bottom?
I drowned, yeah. Totally.
You would drown.
Totally.
All right, well, here's the deal. I mean, the biggest thing to overcome for adults who can't swim, there's a difference between I'm scared to death of swimming and I can't swim. So the scared to death is the more difficult, right? Because they've had some sort of a traumatic experience with the water, and emotionally being able to overcome that is totally separate from the skill of swimming. But if you look at swimming and you imagine your body, you have two built-in life preservers, and they are your lungs. So when you fill your lungs with air, their purpose is to keep you afloat. right? What happens when you get nervous in the water is you blow all your air out. So in swimming, you can never really go, like there's no deep breath. There's just really shallow breathing that goes on so that your lungs really do stay, partially inflated so that you have a little flotation going on. So if you just take that right there is going to help you stay afloat.
Yeah.
And so anyway, because people care about you probably, and they really have a desire to experience this joy of swimming and everything aquatic with you. So you should take it as a compliment that so many people want to teach you how to swim.
I joked with my wife. We went on a cruise to Mexico a couple years back, and she somehow talked me into going, what is it, where you look all the fish, not scuba diving, but snorkeling, yes.
Snorkeling.
And I joked with her because they gave me this life vest that was inflatable, and they kept draining all the air out, and I'm blowing it up, and they're draining it out. And I'm like, do you have a life insurance policy on me? And these guys at this resort in Mexico are in on it, because I'm going to drown out here looking at these beautiful fish. They're very beautiful, but I'm going to die looking at them.
Right.
We always bring it back to wrestling. I wrestled for 12 years on the Memphis circuit. Josh's uncle was a wrestler. We always bring it back to wrestling in some way. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you who was your favorite Hulk Hogan opponent or anything like that. But in wrestling, we always did things to where we'd have to entertain ourselves, whether it was, playing practical jokes or pranks on each other. Was any of that going on in the Olympics? Did anybody try to do like pranks or practical jokes to kind of lighten the mood, or was it more of a serious atmosphere?
No, always pranks. Oh my God! In fact, one of the best pranks was my roommate, the one I always roomed with. Her name is Nicole Hazlett, and she had this just uber obsession crush on Arnold Schwarzenegger. So at the Olympic Games in Barcelona, our Olympic Village where we were staying, it wasn't really 100% complete. Right. So for instance, our door, we could never really lock or shut our door completely. Our bathroom wasn't completely finished. We had no air conditioning. And if you've ever been to Europe in the summertime, it's hot. So it was like ridiculously hot. So we had these curtains, and then basically it was almost like jail cell metal bars that just literally made up the whole side of our room. It's really odd, actually. So one of our teammates knew that Nicole was obsessed with Arnold, and Arnold happened to be at the Olympic Games, and she happened to be friends with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So we were asleep this was after our competition and everything, but we were asleep in our rooms, and I won't cuss on the show, but anyway.
Do whatever,
He opened up the curtains because you could put your hand through the metal bars, and he opened up those curtains and he stood there and he said, "Wake the bleep up, girls!" I mean, as loud as he possibly could, and we thought we had just entered the set of Terminator. I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And there stood Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, that's not a great prank, but we were always having shaving cream fights. I'm like really, really big into scaring people. So yes, we had to keep it light, and we were young, so we had to remember to have fun with it. Again, it was back in that sort of like innocent time when it wasn't about money. It was have fun. You do this because you love it. And we're still kids. Let's make sure that we remember the Olympic experience, not just being nervous in a high-pressure situation. So it's so important. And I watched wrestling growing up. My brother and I used to have our moments of body slams and takedowns, and it was old school. I mean, it was like Rowdy Piper, and I don't know him. I wasn't obsessed with it, so I don't remember the names of everybody, but yes, we used to watch it. My brother would dress up like it, and we would have takedown moments and tap-out moments and tag team. So, yeah, but it was old school. What was it called? Was it still called WWE back then, or did it have a different name?
WWF probably back then.
WWF. It's exactly what it was. WWF.
Which is funny because the first thing they tell you to do is don't try this at home, and the first thing you do is try to jump off your sofa and do an elbow drop Macho Man Randy Savage style on your brother. So, I mean,
totally.
Yeah.
Have you ever been bungee jumping or done anything scary like that?
No. I tried to swim once in Mexico, and We
Yes.
know how that turned out.
Yes. I did bungee jumping once, and the first thing they said to me is don't look down. And the first thing you do is look down. And it's always the case.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then I jumped. I don't know why. Yeah. Here's the deal. I'm married to that guy. My husband was in the emergency room 20 times before the age of 10. He would build these jumps for his BMX bike, and he literally built a ramp so that he could jump his mom, who just stood there, and she's like equally awesome, crazy like that. She didn't even flinch, and he cleared her. He would jump out of his second story window and try to clear the fence, and there'd be a mattress on the other side. He went 70. He's an alpine Olympian ski racer. He'd go 70 down a sheet of ice. So, I mean, these are people, like, I can never understand them, but I also know it's in their DNA. So I just try to manage it. It's pretty amazing when you're around it.
You had a part in a little movie called Jerry McGuire. Did you audition for that, or did the producers already have you in mind?
Well, so I played myself, so I didn't have to audition. That'd be pretty sad if I had to audition to play myself, and I didn't make it, right?
You never know.
They're like, no, you just don't play Summer quite as well as this other girl does. So, and the funny thing was I was asked to do it right after I missed making the Olympic team in 1996. So it was a really awesome consolation prize. But I went to San Francisco, and the scene was 3 athletes, and we were all staggered within the office where Jerry McGuire worked originally. Remember that scene where he says, I'm out of here, and I've got my goldfish, who's with me?
Right.
And then Renee Zellweger is like, I'll go with you. So that was the big office. So the first person, as he walks into the office and says hello to him, it was a football player, and I can't remember who it was. So sorry if that person's listening and I didn't remember.
They're not listening.
But then
You're
next,
good.
okay. And then the next person he said hello to was Rebecca Lobo. And then I was right next to his office door, so I was the last of the scene. So the scene took really, because I was the last of it, it took all day. So all day I was hanging out there. And then as they cleared the football player in that part, okay, football player could go, and then Rebecca was cleared and she could go. So by the time they got to me, because we would flow through the whole scene each time, we'd been there all day. And so Tom Cruise came up to me and said, hey, do you want a line? And like an actual line in the movie, so speaking part.
Right.
And of course I'm like, sure. But I had no idea what that meant. But because I got a line in the movie, I still get residual checks.
Wow.
From Jerry McGuire. I had no idea. Again, I'm like, what is this? I'm not really acting. I'm just playing me. So my line was this. So, Jerry, I hear you're getting married. And I think that was it. Maybe I said congratulations. And then he walked into his office. But the hilarious part of the whole thing is that scene didn't even make it to the movie. So I'm on the cutting room floor, but I still sort of get credit as being part of Jerry McGuire. Because if you remember the movie, he was fired. This was the scene we shot was him getting fired in his office, but in the actual movie, he got fired in that cafe. So they changed their minds, and but I got to be a part of it, and it was pretty fun. And the movie process is long, and you've got to be dedicated, and yeah, it's not unlike training day after day after day, looking at a black line in the swimming pool.
Right. Well, what was the sentiment on set? I mean, did you guys know, it was going to be as big as it was going to get? I mean, I know Tom Cruise, he was a mega star back then. I mean, but did y'all really have that, hey, this is probably going to be really huge?
No, I had no idea. I wish you had known my 23-year-old self at that time. No, I just thought this is so crazy and awesome that I get to be on a movie set, and it's Tom Cruise in what was it, 1996.
Right.
So yeah, no, I figure if it's a Tom Cruise movie and it's 1996, it's probably a pretty big movie. But equally so was Cameron Crowe. I mean, he is and was an amazing director. So with his name attached, I'm like, this has to be pretty cool and different. And I was connected to the world because he plays a sport agent, so I knew a thing or two about sports agents and the original ones, right? So that world has changed so much over my, 28-year career in this business. So that part, even though I'd only been in the business at that time for, like maybe 4 or 5 years, I knew enough to know this is pretty cool. I felt connected to it.
As a kid, I really connected to you more and your personality when you started hosting a Nickelodeon game show called Figure It Out. Do you still get a lot of questions about that show, and are you tired of answering them? I mean, I know it was such a small part of your life at the time, but it seems like as a kid, when I was watching it, and when I say kid, I was like high school still probably. I was a kid. But when you get those questions, it was a very small part, but for somebody like me, it was a huge part. It was every day for me to watch this show. So do you still get a lot of those questions about that show?
Oh, my God, every day, and I love it. I love it. I am running into people that, are the president of production companies now that watched me on Figure It Out. And I'll walk in for a meeting, and, their job is to figure out whether or not to hire me or to, the show I'm pitching, whether to take the show that I'm pitching. And the moment our eyes lock, it's like they turn into their 12-year-old selves. And it's really, really cool. That generation of Nickelodeon kids, they're doing some amazing things right now. And I appreciate them and love them so much because I felt like Nickelodeon at that time just really understood kids, took the time to care and understand them. And again, this is, kind of going back to our conversation about social media. It is just different being a kid now with social media. And Nickelodeon just grabbed their attention, and it was messy, and it was creative, and it was cool, and everything about it I loved. And it was, 4, 5, 6 years of my life, but it was a huge 4, 5, 6 years of my life. Yeah.
What is the oddest talent that you saw a kid with on that show?
I mean, we had kids that saved their toe jam and put it in a jar, and it smelled, and I don't know why. This goes back to that thing of where they said, don't smell it. Actually, they did tell me to smell it, and I did. I shouldn't have listened to them because they were like my older brothers. But I opened up the jar, and I smelled it. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever smelled, and that was considered a collection. So, yeah, we had things like that. That's one end of the spectrum. And then we had, creative inventions where this one kid, who I think he was 7, and he invented the double-lidded peanut butter jar. And he did that because he found his mom was always getting upset because she would make his peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but it'd be the very end of the peanut butter jar, and she'd get peanut butter on the sleeve of her blouse because she had to reach her hand in there so far. So he put, a twist lid on the bottom also so that you could open up either end, and it never, you never got the peanut butter on your blouse. I was like, cool. That 7-year-old brain's pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's... And those people that were collecting their toe jam, for a follow-up, you can follow them on Hoarders now on A&E.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
But, speaking of kids with weird talents, there is a SiriusXM host named Sam Roberts, host of the Jim and Sam Show. He also has a successful wrestling podcast that he does. He was actually on Figure It Out, and he plays the clip all the time of this little kid that he was. Do you remember the little future SiriusXM host flipping quarters off of his ankles?
Oh, my God. Are you kidding me? Yes. This is amazing. See, isn't this generation just so amazing what they've gone on and done? Right. Can he still do that, though? Has he shown people? I mean, I know it's XM radio, so
yeah.
XM.
He talks about it. But... He talks about it. He said he was on Letterman at one time, and they wanted him to do it as a stupid human trick. And I think he said he doesn't have the ability to do it anymore. He said the only disappointment was that the winning thing on the contest was a trip to Vermont.
Smuggler's Notch.
Yeah.
Which just sounded so wrong. Every time I said it, I'm like, this doesn't sound like a kid's show, gift. I don't know what Smuggler's Notch is, but that sounds like a late-night gift. I don't know.
Yeah, he said, we're already in Universal Studios here in Orlando, Florida. Why not give me an extra week in Universal Studios? Why are you giving me a trip to Vermont?
I don't know. Every time I said it, I'm like, why are we giving kids a trip to Smuggler's Notch? It doesn't sound like it's a good thing. I would have said, just stay here. Just, you know what? Put a cot right here. They would have put the greatest gift we could have given these kids is a week of sleep in our studio because it was the best studio full of these amazing, creative people that were coming up with, we were throwing like canned tuna on the contestants. They had to come up with these giant slingshots. And then remember when we turned the show into wild style? And then we had a chimpanzee and an orangutan that would bring out the gifts.
Yep.
They were Brooks and Bailey, and they were so cute and so cool. I think it was the chimpanzee. We had them dressed in tuxedos, and they were like butlers.
Yep.
And they were to bring out the clue on these metal trays. And I think it was Brooks, who was the chimpanzee, but he had it on the metal tray, and the metal tray hit Billy the Answerhead. You know that big wooden Billy the Answerhead?
Yeah.
He just didn't judge his space correctly. and the clue fell off. Some of the clue fell off, and he was so programmed to bring it out, but then some of them fell off. So he was having a moment with himself where he didn't know what he was supposed to do. Do I pick them up or do I keep going? It was literally like watching a 6-year-old try to figure out, like, this was not a part of what we spoke about, so I don't know what to do. I'm having conundrum, and it was like, on live television.
Right.
So we had to stop, and poor Brooks was like, I didn't know. He's a cute chimpanzee. So, yeah, our show was just awesome. Great people.
I will say Sam Roberts actually said that the one thing that did really tick him off was that you had the Charade Brigade. I'll get that word right in a minute. And he said they are supposed to act out the clues of what this talent is. And he said at one point, he just started pointing to his ankle. And they all go, ankle. And he's like, oh, come on.
I know, right? There were some where I was like, we could have made that probably a little harder. Yeah, there was a lot at stake for these little kids. Part of it was just making it to the show and getting to see Danny Tamborelli and Lori Beth Denberg and all the great people on the panel. The other part of it was watching them get slimed. Yep. But, they did go home with a lot of amazing, like, Toys R Us bucks. Yep. I don't know, backpacks full of stuff. I don't know what it was. The kids seemed happy. But I felt bad because Lori Beth Denberg, she was the buzzer beater of all buzzer beaters. She could figure out, she'd have there'd be one word on Billy the Answerhead and 6 more words to go. And somehow in the final seconds, she'd just throw out this guess. And she'd guess it to the point where the kids were like, you're giving her the answers. Like, they were convinced that we were giving Lori Beth Denberg the answers. I'm like, listen, we want to give these Smuggler's Notch gifts away. I don't want to go. It's minus 70 there. I know how cold it is. So, yeah, it was really funny.
What would you say is one of your most favorite memories of the show?
Oh, I grew up watching the Jeffersons, and I remember when Sherman Hemsley stepped foot on our set, because I think it was his grandkid that watched the show. We had a lot of celebrities that either had their kids come or they would be on the panel because one of their family members loved Figure It Out. So Sherman Hemsley was on our panel, and I got to say, Wheezy, and that was a huge moment for me. That was my youth. I watched Different Strokes, the Jeffersons, One Day at a Time, after school every day, and the fact that Sherman Hemsley was there was pretty cool. We had Joe Namath. I don't know if you remember the basketball player Penny Hardaway.
Yes, he's from Memphis.
It
was
huge
there you go.
When Orlando drafted him.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had Penny Hardaway, Evander Holyfield. There were a lot of people that you would never imagine would be on the show and get slimed. When slime was just becoming the slime that it is right now. So I don't know. I think, and then probably the most touching was the Make-A-Wish kids that would, all they wanted to do was come meet Danny Tamborelli. And for me to watch, I was 23, 24, 25 at the time, and I would watch Danny, who was much younger than me. I think he was a teenager at the time. He would take the time and spent the whole day with these kids that would come through, because all they wanted to do, their Make-A-Wish, was to go and be with Danny Tamborelli. And I just thought that was such a special part of who we were, not only as a network, but as a show.
You know, I always looked up to the guys like John Cena, Michael Jordan, all those guys that would do those Make-A-Wish things. It's like, and even as a dad now, it's even more special because something happens when you have a kid. You become this big softy and little things like that. I know they did a thing in WWE a couple years ago with, they called him Connor the Crusher. He had terminal cancer, and they let him basically just get in the ring and be a superstar one day. And they actually have a cause that they support now called Connor's Cure. And this was right after my daughter was born, and my wife and me were watching wrestling, and she leaves the ring and leaves the room, and she comes back, and I'm bawling like a baby, and she's like, "Are you crying over wrestling right now?" And I'm like, no, it was the sweet thing. And they did the same thing with Carson Wentz. And I'm sitting here trying to, you know, there's allergies and stuff, and there's dust in the room. But I don't know what it is. It's something about that Make-A-Wish thing, especially after you have a kid, that you see that that's so special. And those guys, hats off to them. If I was popular enough to have that position, I would try to do as many as I could. And hats off to them. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think you know, the very grounded athletes that are capable of handling that, they do recognize that this helps them. You know, I mean, it's not in a selfish way, but when your sport becomes your job, it becomes a little less fun, right? And if you can give it more meaning, and if the meaning is coming from somebody else, and it's real like that with a little kid that's fighting for his life, and now you're a part of that journey, that's inspiration to a whole nother level. So I do appreciate those athletes that really do get it, and frankly, a lot of them are those athletes. We just don't hear the stories, and we should hear more of those stories.
I would much rather hear that than some of the negativity you hear in the news nowadays. I would love to hear those kind of stories.
1,000%. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned getting slimed just a minute ago, just to bring the mood up a little bit. You know, as a kid, that was like what I wanted. I wanted to be slimed more than anything. But now as an adult, I feel like that would be a day ruiner. And I know, like, even for like more so for like people on TV, because they have makeup and hair and all that stuff that they have to do. You've got hit with the slime a few times. Was it fun, or was it more of like a nightmare situation? Like, here we go again.
Okay, so you have to understand our show. First of all, I'm going to step back for a second. Okay. If you got slimed right now in your adult life, you would be so joyous. You would be like, I'm 12 again, and I have like 1,000 watts of energy. It's ridiculous how amped I am because of this. You would love it.
Now,
and I'll tell you why.
Am I on the TV show, or is it just a homeless guy hit me with a bucket of stuff?
Right. So that wouldn't be ideal because you don't know what slime you're getting.
Right.
But when you get the authentic Nickelodeon slime and your moment happens and your kids get to see it, priceless. Okay, now let's go to our show.
Right. We
would shoot approximately, what were we shooting? 70-some shows, or maybe it was 47. Maybe I'm dyslexic. So it was either 47, 70. We would shoot 3 to 4 shows a day, all through the weekday for probably about a month. I don't know what that adds up to. Yeah. But so when we were, let's say, on a Friday, and we had shot all week, 4 shows a day, and we were on our 4th show on that Friday, there was probably only one person on the panel who was willing to take another slime, and that was Danny Tamborelli. But there were many times, and I totally understood it, when Lori Beth Denberg was like, I am not getting slimed. I'm not taking another shower. I'm not going to do it. Because the people on the panel, when they got slimed first show, that's fine, because they just sit there for the second half, right? The second half of the show. And if they get slimed again, okay, no big deal. So, but in between, we had to clean the panel, redo hair and makeup, and then come back out. So I really had the easy job when it came to that.
Right.
And I did get slimed 4 times, and I loved every time I got slimed. But it always made me appreciate their role a little bit more because the slime was freezing cold. They kept it in refrigerators, and it must have been on the verge of like a freezer because it was freezing cold, and it was vanilla pudding and green food coloring. Wow. So the plus was you could eat really cold vanilla pudding, but the negative was you had really cold vanilla pudding running down your back. It was like there's just so. But Danny always took it the best, and then he'd flick his hair back, and then the people behind him with the dog pound, and they would always get Danny's excess slime, and it was like a huge moment. It was great. It was great.
Do you ever still talk to Danny or any of those guys like Lori or any of those guys from that day?
I don't, and I wish I did. Danny and I, we're on Twitter together, so and we did have a conversation not long ago. We don't, but it's sort of like this, like the Disney Club, the Nickelodeon Club. We all sort of recognize each other. I think if I did get a hold of anybody and I asked them for something or I needed something from them, they would be there for me in a second. From Mike O'Malley, Phil Moore. I'm just trying to think of some of the people. Amanda Bynes. I'm sure we've all watched what's been going on with her.
Mark Summers, maybe?
Mark Summers. Keenan Thompson, who's now on SNL. Yeah, so we have a lot of really cool alumni from Nickelodeon. And I think the best part about this group, you guys, is they really remember where they came from.
That's awesome.
And again, how important Nickelodeon was to kids at that time and how rare it was to be a part of a network like that.
You worked a long time with old school football great Ahmad Rashad. Any good stories, from the NBA inside stuff years that you could share about working with Ahmad?
Oh my gosh. So I was an Inside Stuff fan, huge fan, as you know, because I was a Jordan fan before I started hosting the show. Right. I would watch it every Saturday, loved it, and I had this really very strange feeling, almost like I was psychic in a way, that I was going to host that show. Every time I'd see it, I'd go, I'm going to host that show someday. And at the 92 Olympics, NBC said to me, if you win, your gold medal, would you please come, as I told you, to Mr. Ebersol's office and do an interview with Bob Costas? And me being like the savvy businesswoman that I was at 19, I said, yes, if I can have 4 tickets to the Dream Team final. And I'm sure they went in their stash of like 1,000 tickets and said, oh, yes, okay. All right. So anyway, they gave me the 4 tickets. So I took 3 of my girlfriends with me, and we went to this game. Huge moment for me. Huge. Even bigger now, right? Because there's no other Dream Team. There was only that 92 Dream Team. There's just other teams. So no offense to anybody's play, but that was the Dream Team. There's not Dream Team 2. So anyway, so we're there. We make it to the game on time, and I see Ahmad Rashad. So I say to my friends, I've just won my gold medal. I've just had my interview with Bob Costas. I just negotiated this big deal for these tickets. I'm feeling all cool and confident. And I say to my friends, I'm going to walk up and introduce myself to Ahmad Rashad. And my girlfriends were like, who is that? And I'm like, you don't need to know. I will explain it to you later. So I go up to Ahmad Rashad, and I boldly say, hello, Ahmad. I'm a big fan. My name is Summer Sanders. I watch you all the time on Inside Stuff. I love basketball, and it's great to meet you. So that was the first meeting with Ahmad Rashad. I don't even know if he even remembers that I ever did that, but that was 1992. I started working for Inside Stuff in 1997. And then 1998, I became the co-host of Inside Stuff. I have endless stories about Ahmad. His many sports cars that he would drive up to the studios in, sitting there in my dressing room and having Michael Jordan, who you remember my obsession with Michael Jordan.
Yes.
Well, now he's like standing in my dressing room door, heckling me.
What did you think about the poster in your room?
He thinks I'm crazy because I had so many posters and I had so many things signed for me. People knew my obsession with Jordan, so they kept asking Michael Jordan, please sign this for Summer. He finally was like, I have signed so much for this summer, girl. Like, I'm done. and so I met Michael Jordan right after I made the 1992 Olympic team because the Sacramento Kings learned of my obsession with him. And I came back to Sacramento for Thanksgiving break from Stanford, and I was at the game, and so they took me down before the game to meet Jordan. And it was literally like, have you seen the movie? Tell me you've seen the movie Dirty Dancing.
Yes. Oh, I was raised by women. Dirty Dancing and Pretty Woman. My wife makes fun of me. Yes, I know those movies well. Go ahead.
So that was my moment of I carried a watermelon. Like, I don't even really know what I said to him. Whatever I said, it was really stupid. And I'm like, I blew my whole moment. That was my moment with my Jordan, right? And then, essentially we became quote unquote teammates in 1992.
Right.
And then eventually I worked with the league, and then he's standing in my dressing room door while I'm waiting to go tape the show, heckling me and making fun of my computer skills. So, it's funny how life works.
Yeah,
right?
and that could have been your nobody puts Summer in the corner moment when he's in there heckling you. It all works out for the best.
Exactly. Nobody puts Summer in the corner. Doesn't sound as good as nobody put Baby in the corner.
But a lot less drama than the movie.
Was it odd then that I just ran and jumped up and he caught me and held me above his head? I mean, is that wrong?
Did your mom say that? Like, did your mom say, "I think that she's getting this from me"?
Yes, it was the whole scene. I mean, you tell me if that's weird. I don't know. But in that moment, and thinking of Dirty Dancing, tell me your favorite moment besides the play, but your favorite moment from the Super Bowl, this last Super Bowl.
Actually, that was going to be my next question. That play was my favorite moment. Other than seeing now, people look at me and they're going to say, all right, he's a Tom Brady hater. Watching him miss that pass, I was like, okay, he's not perfect. He's not perfect.
Yes.
He dropped the ball.
Yes. Are you kidding? That was fantastic. I was talking about the commercial with the Giants.
Oh, yes. That was probably my favorite commercial, the Super Bowl commercial of all time. And just
I
because
think it was phenomenal.
Yeah. Just because I was, like I said, I just rattled off 2 or 3 lines, so I'm not lying. I know that movie almost quote by quote. I could quote it to you. Because I watched it ad nauseum at our house growing up because it was only one TV. We were a broke family, single parent, and my grandmother and my cousin lived with me at the time, and we watched Dirty Dancing and Pretty Woman and Fried Green Tomatoes and Stilled Magnolias, and that might be why I cry at the national anthem every time.
You're a good man. You're a good man right there. I paid to go see Dirty Dancing in the movie theater 16 times.
Wow.
I may have a problem. I don't know. It was Patrick Swayze and Michael Jordan. I don't know what's going on.
We
but
know
anyway,
where that $1,200 Olympic check went then.
Yeah, exactly. All my allowance right there. I didn't even have enough money for popcorn. I just wanted to see Patrick Swayze on the big screen again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to ask me what my favorite part of the movie was. I was going to say, without question, when they're practicing in the lake and they keep trying to do the move and falling in. That was. Should I know this?
You should. It's a good quality. Keep it up. Don't let any guy tell you differently, okay? Trust me on this.
Well, I've been trying for years, but it
hasn't worked.
So,
I know where your heart lies in the NFL. You are a Bills fan. Yes.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to know where I'm going with this. I'm from close to Memphis and Nashville. I'm a Titans fan. I have a little bit of a bias towards the Titans. Hopefully we'll do pretty well next year without DeMarco Murray. But here's the question. 1999, the last time you guys were in the playoffs, the Music City Miracle, was it a forward pass?
Oh, my gosh. I think they've proven that. I saw it.
No way.
There's no question. There is no question. Go look at it right now. I mean, what they did right at the end of this season. I forget what game it was. A Cowboys fan will remember the game, but the catch or no catch. I mean, it's so frustrating when you're a huge fan and you see when the rules, it was clearly right there. If they'd taken a second and looked at it and analyzed it, history would be changed forever.
Y'all could have lost another one. Who knows,
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. But we did make the playoffs last year, so our playoff drought is now done. And this draft is going to be, I'm going to, literally, it's going to be like the Super Bowl for us. We're going to sit here and watch the draft. We have, I think, my husband was just saying this. What do we have, 5 picks out of the first 65 players? I don't even know if that's accurate, but it's something like that. And yet we might even not do that. We might trade some of that to get a Nick Foles and then get even more draft picks.
Right.
It's like teams. Oh, I could go on and talk about the NFL forever, but this, somebody needs to go and shake up the system, draft, combine, all of this, and the way we see NFL players and what is most important to your team. Like a coach needs to have the guts to go in there and just shake it up a little bit and see it differently. Clearly, no one has a crystal ball. Right. We don't know who the next Tom Brady is going to be, but there has to be some sort of better system to figure out these franchise long-term, they have it players. I don't know. I welcome just a new train of thought when it comes to that. Yeah, I think what happens with Buffalo is it's the heartache, right? It's the how close. And really that's why we never, ever stop watching a game until the last second. Because that's what a Bills fan does. You never know what's going to happen. You never count them out, and you never count out the other team. So we are fans till the end. We don't, rarely do we start booing or bad-mouthing our team at all. It's always either, okay, next week, or if the case may be, next season. What are we going to do next season? How are we going to be better? I love these fans. It's half of the reason why I love cheering for the Bills is not just the players. It's these fans. They are hardcore, true blue, emotional, just invested in it, knowledgeable fans about Buffalo. And I love being a part of that group.
Oh, yeah. You type in Buffalo Bills fans on YouTube and see what kind of videos pops up. Those guys are hardcore.
Hardcore in many ways, But they love their team, the women, the men, the kids. I mean, that city, my husband's from Hamburg, New York. He's in the Buffalo, I think it's called the Greater Buffalo Sports Hall of Fame. And it was one of our greatest moments as a family. The entire Schlopey family went out there for it.
Right.
It was a huge moment. And those Buffalo people are good people.
Yes. Well, do you have anything coming up you'd like to promote?
We've got, I think it's our 5th season of We Need to Talk. It's an all-female sports talk show on CBS Sportsnet. And our 5th season will be debuting in April. So check us out. It's either 7 or 8 p.m. on Tuesday nights. You just have to check your listings. But if you're watching March Madness right now, then you're watching CBS Sportsnet, so you know where to find us.
Awesome.
And check us out. We've got 12 women that rotate 4 every week, ranging from Andrea Kramer and Tracy Wolfson to Swin Cash, Lisa Leslie, Summer Sanders, Dara Torres. So all walks of life from the sports world. Just talking about why we love sports and our take on the latest news.
I'll tell you this. It has been awesome to talk to you today. You couldn't be any more nice if you tried. We appreciate your time. Summer Sanders, go check her out there. Watch that show. She's excellent in everything she does. And I'm sure we'll be talking on Twitter back and forth when the football season starts again.
Yes, we will. And my pleasure talking with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it, Summer.
Don't fit. I'm going to have to buy new clothes.
Don't drive to the mall. Take a trip down to 51 South Creek Drive in Jackson. See Matt Hoover and the gang at Maximum Health and Fitness. They will not only whip you back into shape, they will keep you in the clothes that you already own.
Well, what are my options? Do I have a way to just kind of dip my toe in?
Mention this podcast and you will receive a free trial membership.
Well, that's it. Enough is enough. I'm heading there right now.
Maximum Health and Fitness, 51 South Creek Drive in Jackson.
He speaks fluent Klingon, backwards. The best story he's ever told was to himself. Of the 2 women he slept with in his life, one fell asleep, the other thought he was someone else. Dogs take him for walks. He is the world's most semi-interesting man.
I don't often smoke, but when I do, I only choose Vista Vapors.
Visit them today at tinyurl.com/P3Vista.
Keep it flavorful, my friends.
Well, the sound of the song means that we have reached the end of another episode of P3 Radio. Once again, we'd like to thank Summer Sanders for being a part of today's show. It was truly an honor to speak with her. If you'd like to learn more about our show, you want to visit us on, say, Facebook, Josh, where do they find us?
Go to the search bar and type in Pop Poncho.
On Twitter,
P3 Radio, the number 1.
And we're also available on SoundCloud, iTunes, or wherever fine podcasts are found. Join us next week for another round of P3 Radio. For Josh Briley, I'm Richard Mulligan saying thanks and good night.